right, everybody. Well, everyone is getting situated in. Welcome to Interop Workshop. As you may see from the number of folks that are joining, we got a banner crowd here this one, and we're really glad that you're here. Interop Workshop is a technical discussion on the exchange of healthcare data, and it is with the goal of facilitating interoperability overall. Zen Healthcare IT is the sponsor of it, and I happen to be the host of it. My name is Jim Benson. I am the CEO of Zen Healthcare IT, and the resident expert that we always try to stump and make look foolish if we possibly can is Ron Wilson. He's the VP of Engineering here and at Zen, and is the solution architect for the vast majority of Zen's products, certainly the lead architect on everything. Thank you to everybody who has participated and otherwise contributed to our efforts here. We do appreciate it. I'll get just a little background, and certainly with the number of folks that we have here, I want to let everybody know this is a real world discussion on interoperability challenges overall. It is not a marketing thing for Zen, although I will tell you that we're not above a shameless plug from time to time, but that's not the point of what we're doing here. We invite everybody to this. We invite clients and prospects. We invite vendors and, yes, even competitors into this to join the discussion, because we really do feel that talking about these kind of things, that rising tide lifts all boats, and that's the purpose of what we do. Now, again, a little housekeeping thing here. This is an interactive discussion. Now, we got a lot of people signed up, more than we normally do, but I strongly encourage you to be able to turn your microphones on. We want to have you be able to contribute, to ask questions and those kind of things. Turn your cameras on, folks. We like to see people. I always say to folks that I reserve the right to call on you. If you're here, we may have a discussion. So be prepared to talk about it. This isn't you don't want to listen to me for an hour, I guarantee you. It's an interactive discussion. Let's look at it that way. I will also ask everybody, if you will, bring the chat up and use the chat that we have here. From time to time, I'll ask questions and potentially some feedback in the chat, and I want you to be able to do that. And the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do, if you're so inclined, it is optional, like everything else around here, but it's optional but strongly encouraged. Introduce yourself in the chat. You never know where you're going to find somebody that you didn't know before, or you put a face with a name that you didn't know. You'll find somebody that is worthwhile for you to know, and it is an opportunity for you to do a shameless plug for your organization as well. Really, folks, if you're here, you're paying attention to interoperability, and we want to make this the most fun you can possibly have and still be talking about healthcare data interoperability. So do turn your cameras on, make yourself a part of the discussion here, and I hope that you will introduce yourself in the chats and make it worthwhile. There you go. We're seeing those things come through right there. Do pay attention to those. You never know when you find a prospect or a client or whatever the case happens to be right there. It's a great opportunity for you to know each other. One other housekeeping thing that I'll do before we'll dive right in here is, we've actually been doing this for about a year and a half, maybe even a little bit more, and we did them every week for the first, 2 or 3 months of this. So we've gotten quite a few of these down. We've found that letting people know that and know what the kind of topics that we've covered in the past, and that we can make those available to you if you are interested in doing so, is actually really worthwhile. So we started the earlier part of last year doing it, and one of the series that we did that actually turned into a series that was really good was a series on do-it-yourself interoperability, and that mushroomed into a 3-part series. We had no idea it would be that big, because we covered things like just all kinds of things that you should consider as you're making the decision whether you should do this yourself or farm it out to somebody who is an expert. From criticality of the use cases to security to the compliance issues, disaster disaster recovery issues, management of the costs and the unexpected costs thereof. Signals that you are outgrowing what you've done. And for a good number of you who do this all the time, you've probably seen a lot of folks that have outgrown their capabilities and really they start to not be able to figure out how to unwind the pile of technical debt that they've created. In addition, we've talked a lot about the national networks and optimizing the care equality, Commonwealth, EHECS, and managing the directory structures of those and how that gets how that can become a real headache, and what best practices with regard to those. Migrating to the QHINs, there's a big part of what we did covering those things, and a whole lot more. General integrations to EMRs and gotchas associated with those. So I will say to you, oh, good, we're seeing some people abroad coming in as well. Thank you for posting in the chat on that. I will say to you, if you would like to get the list of topics that we've covered in here, it actually is pretty significant, and there are a lot of pearls in that pile. If you will, again, type in the chat, send me the notes. Just type something along those lines. If that's the case, then we'll go back through the chat after the thing's over. We've got your contact information, and we'll reach out to you and give you the list of them and or the links to them, and you can do with it as you choose. So just all you got to do. I see other people doing it already. They're putting it in there. Fantastic. Just if you're interested, request those, and we'll give you all of that information. Again, we're just looking to have the rising tide lift all boats here, and it's one of the things that is good. Okay, well, we got 7 minutes into it. I try not to waste more time than that in doing it. We're gonna kick off here on the agenda that we've got, and Ron actually put a breaking news thing that we do from time to time in this. Ron, I'm going to throw the microphone over here to you, my friend. You've got some breaking news for everybody.
Yeah, this morning, Care Quality made some announcements about personnel changes, and these personnel changes are relative to the alignment with the TEFCA rules in the general Care Quality desire to do that. Alan Swenson, who has been the executive director, is going to move into a position to manage some technical elements related to delegation of authority implementation, which today is known as OBO, or on behalf of, and some directory improvements. These directory improvements, this is an exciting move, frankly, from my perspective, relative to the technical things. The directory needs some attention, and Alan's going to focus on getting that dialed in. Seth Selko, who's the chairman of the Care Quality Board of Directors, is going to pick up some of the executive director overhead, so Alan can zero in on that this fall. Additionally, they're adding an account executive and a business analyst. So Chris Dickerson and Bill Megan are both going to be picking up additional responsibilities around policy development and security and technical initiatives, respectively. So this just kind of continues to go down kind of what we've been saying as 2025 being the year of change, and just a continuing effort on all parts to align the national network so everyone understands it as being a homogeneous event of data sharing.
Fantastic, Alan, and it sounds like there's some positive changes in that as well as they continue to build out their team. That's great to hear. Okay, the moment we're 10 minutes in, the moment you've all been waiting for. As I mentioned, all of the topics that we've talked about have really been focused specifically on the technical aspects of interoperability, and that's what we really do here. But we have kind of a special program today. And it is going to remain a technical discussion, but there are a lot of nuances to this, as I think everybody that's here is aware. And we decided to do this because of the impacts of NextGen's decision to close source Mirth Connect, and being that it's a very abrupt change that happened overall. A quick history for everybody that I think most everybody will know this, but let's just level set here. In November of 23, Thoma Bravo purchased the private equity company purchased NextGen, and last month, really without a whole lot of notice, a little bit of leakage there, but not much. NextGen decided to close source Mirth Connect, boom, like that, and it left an awful lot of folks wondering what they can do and how do they continue to build their operations, interoperability operations, I should say, on an engine. A lot of people felt stranded by that, a little bit betrayed, I will say. I'll let others fill that in. And there are an awful lot of use cases that you couldn't go to the paid version if you wanted to. It would be totally economically infeasible to do so. So a lot of people were scratching their heads with regard to that. And quite honestly, a lot of people were going, should I do something else completely? And rightly so. Well, Zen faced those questions as well, because of course we use it like lots of other people use open source tools. We use Postgres database as well. So there's a lot of those characteristics there. And fortunately for Zen, of course, we're in the business of doing interoperability. And the truth be told, well, we've forked Mirth Connect quite a while ago for our internal use and developed those things that we wanted to. So it really wasn't something that made us go hair on fire, but it's also something that really is not, at least in our opinion, I'll speak for myself, in my opinion, really good for the interoperability marketplace overall. So it certainly has our attention. We asked ourselves the question, should we fork it and make that available as well? Because we certainly have the capability of doing that. It's what we do all the time, and what we ended up doing there is looking, as I normally do, and for people that work with me all the time, I'm always saying, and people get tired of it, that chaos is another word for opportunity, and that's really what this is in front of us, in my opinion, is that we have an opportunity in front of us to take what has been the former Mirth Connect open source and see where the marketplace will take it. And I think that marketplace can take it a long way. So NextGen's decision here has basically created a void in the marketplace, and just like nature itself, it abhors a void, and there's some real opportunity here. So if you've followed the Mirth community forums and other things, you know that there are an awful lot of really smart people out there that do this stuff a long time, and really without any corporate involvement at all. A group of them have gotten together and created it's one of the forks that is out there, but they have created the Open Integration Engine.org or OIE. Zen knows a large percentage of the people that have done this. We've worked with them, and as a matter of fact, a number of them worked at Mirth, and even some of them worked at Zen, to be quite honest with you. So we've assessed the capabilities of this team overall, and we are actually really thrilled with the potential that is there. And so Zen made the decision that we're going to join the other 10 or so current sponsors that there are of the OIE organization at this point. In just a handful of weeks, they've come up with some 11 corporate sponsors that are there to do this fork and to really focus on their core missions that we're going to hear more about. So with that all said, that in mind, I want to do a couple of introductions. You guys, we're fortunate enough to have asked for some representation from OIE to join us, And the first one is Mr. Paul Coyne. And if you've been paying attention to the forums at all, you know him. He's the principal consultant at Duridium Technologies. You probably know him as Pacmano, and he's been a prolific poster and helped a lot of people over a lot of times in the forums, Slack, GitHub, and now in Discord. Duridium covers several areas in the HIT space, including integration, and Paul's an aficionado, and those of you who've been around know that that's the case. So, Paul, welcome and thank you. We'll turn the microphone over to you here in just a minute. I also want to introduce Mr. Jon Bartels, and again, long in the tooth with regard to Mirth. He spent almost 20 years doing it. He was letting me know that he first started working with it in 2006. So yeah, he's starting to get into my territory. Next thing you know, his hair's going to turn gray. Jon's entire career has been based on Mirth and Mirth Connect and those things. He was one of the principal architects of Mirth Results. For those of you who know the CDR, that's that Mirth Corporation put out. And he was, in full disclosure here, employee number 6 at Zen, and he spent a little over 6 years working for us and moving us forward in the marketplace in a big way. Jon moved on and is a senior engineer at Teladoc here today, and both these gentlemen are founding members of the steering committee of the Open Integration Engine, and I hope everybody will join me in saying snaps to these guys for doing this, and welcome, guys. Welcome. Jon, you came up. You can say
yeah. No, good to be here. It's a huge audience, and I'm actually seeing a lot of familiar names that I haven't gotten a chance to work with in several years. A lot of my old peers, customers, cohorts from the HIE spaces. Some bigger names in the Mirth community that are good to see as well. So it's a crowd here, and it's neat to see everybody. And like Jim started with, NextGen really killed the vibe, and I'm hoping that between various open source efforts that we're able to rebuild that community with all of those people around Mirth, and then all of the different protocols and softwares that we're working with. It's good to see everybody coming back.
Yeah, it is. And again, welcome to you, Paul, as well. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, I'm participating as Duridium, of course. I noticed some of my clients are on the call. Just want to let them know that. I think it is probably worth, and I know this might take people by surprise, thanking NextGen for supporting the project for so long, although maybe not in the way we all wished it was supported. Duridium chose to go the OIE route based on 15 criteria, and I have a slide I can share with people if you're interested in why we're looking at this particular project.
Very good. We just may absolutely do that. I normally don't put slides together because people don't necessarily want to see a slideshow, at least in my opinion, but we may do that and make an exception in this case to give you the ability to do that. Well, I've got you, Paul. I want to ask you the question. What was your first reaction to the news that NextGen has done this?
Well, it's interesting. With the exception of a single client, they have all licensed the core pack, or now called the enterprise pack. And I think what caught me the most off guard was the price increase is very substantial for the community of users that are not expecting that large increase. And the additional features added are not very compelling, as I saw on the call. And that's not beating up NextGen at all, because there are some great solutions in the marketplace already for enterprise monitoring. I think Innovar has one. I think you all have one, and there are some custom homegrown systems, if you will. So I'm disappointed, as I suspect lots of people are here to see the Slack community that NextGen hosted sort of go to near nothing. The forums activity I think will probably change over time as people look to alternate resources for support.
Yeah. Well, So with that being the case, what made you go from that reaction to let's put OIE together?
So firstly, there's no rush per se, for the current available release, although does need some libraries patched. There isn't a rush to grab market share, if you will, in my opinion, a rush to release. There's a way, from my perspective, again, to do it right, which is community involvement, let folks, and I think we'll probably talk about, well, what are the plans from a software development perspective, that sort of thing. Encourage the kid, one of the first initiatives is white labeling. People do want to brand the product. Let's debrand it and give independent vendors the opportunity to represent themselves when the engine starts, those sort of things. So that is probably one of the 15 things, and what I'd like to do is I can slide that deck when you send people, share that deck when you send the recording, so I'm not in the PowerPoint presentation mode here. It seemed clear to us at the time why OIE made sense.
Yeah, and you're welcome to, if you got the slide available, you're welcome to share it, and we can use that as a talking point if you want.
I'd love to. I think in the spirit of making, there's some folks on the other effort here on this call, and I'm respectful of their effort, and I would probably refrain from sharing it now in the spirit of talking positively. Not that the slide has anything negative, but there are different approaches, and I think everybody needs to take their own evaluate it independently about what makes sense. There are advantages to the community-driven model. There's advantages to the stewarded by a single vendor model. There's some risks to both, I suspect, and I'll highlight a couple of these without sharing the slide deck. It's likely, highly likely that a vendor stewarded model can move faster because they can effectively dictate the terms of the development. The flip side of that is if a vendor labels something, and for the folks in the community that don't compile Mirth, you need to, sign your jars, all those sort of things. So it's there's expenditure needed in order to get the product installed, or build your own release and do that sort of thing. Then there's another vendor's name, and I provide support. And so I don't know that's in a traditionally fair arrangement. The other thing, we delayed a little bit an announcement just in the spirit of getting folks involved, reaching out to folks. And the funny thing, Jim, is you actually reached out to us unprompted, right after the initiative.
I
right?
did. Yes.
And so, there's, fundamentally and I always say this, I mean, we're in a really great area from the folks that do the integrations. Is there's a lot of work, there's a lot of community, there's a lot of ability to support each other. And that means forwarding business back and forth. That sometimes means technical, sharing. I've certainly done that with a number of the vendors on this call, and certainly via, the support forums and that sort of thing. So I really was hopeful, Duridium, in my role here, to continue that community, approach to the next effort, for what becomes ultimately, open innovation engine.
And with the community at large, open means open because of various copyright and contributor agreements. NextGen had the physical ability to change the license. And that's uncommon in open source because it's uncommon for an open source project to have the authorship and original copyright control that allows them to do that. So any of the open projects that are coming out of the ashes of what NextGen has left behind are fully open. They have to be under the Mozilla license. And, open means open, which is one of the cool things about open source software. I've seen other projects that go, okay, this library does something neat. Let's go use that. And it's open. You can do that as long as the licenses are compatible. And the net benefit there is that the community at large is able to kind of get the best of everything because it is all happening in the open, as compared to more traditional closed source models. I'm sure Mirth and Rhapsody have some of the same features, but it's not replicated or in common at the code level. It's in common at the feature level. which requires a lot of extra effort and energy. So, open is open, and I think Paul and I have found too, within the interop community. I mean, I think I recognize half of the guest list today,
Yeah.
which is pretty, I don't know if that's, it's not ironic. There's a different word for it, but the whole point is to talk to each other and to interoperate. And we do that both on a technical terms with our interfaces. A lot of companies work together all the time. Sometimes they're client customer partnership arrangements. Sometimes it's friendly competitors. And then interpersonally, I see a lot of names that I recognize that I've worked for, work with, and that community vibe is really what I want to get back from what NextGen saying what NextGen did to us is awful spiteful, but a lot of us sat around the NextGen Slack. We would help each other with sticky problems. We would help new people with new people questions, and work through some of that together. And I hope that we can get that back again within within the next couple of weeks. And I would encourage anybody to go to one of the open source projects and start participating in the chat rooms. Just like we did when NextGen ran their Slack. So,
and from my perspective, Paul, I think most people missed that little statement that Paul made when he started to talk, and that we should all be thanking NextGen. Most of us have a career in this space because of NextGen. Mirth, when you really think about it, right? It's hard to get Epic certification training to become an Epic consultant. That's just not something that's free and available to do. Many of us picked this up and used Mirth Connect to do, I did, non-healthcare type things. That's how I found Mirth, was automating some SFTP stuff and recording it and reporting on it. And from there, got into the healthcare IT space. But I think, Jon, I'm right there with you on, the community-based construct. Jim talked about, Zen doing our own branch, right? Zen's desire to do something with the product is completely different than the community.
Yes.
I have an entirely different approach or idea on what I want Mirth Connect to do for Gemini or whatever the open source solution is. I don't have to support SQL Server in Gemini. I don't have to support Oracle database in Gemini. I could implement features and functions and zero in on Postgres. That crushes the community. That's not good for anybody, right? Yeah. So those kind of ideas, I think, is where we've got to have more of this dialogue and stay in a dialogue mode, right? I think it's a really important element of this, in my opinion.
Yeah. So with I think there's a lot of opportunity there for new ideas because Mirth is inherently pluggable. So I know Karpalang and Davu Gubros have developed some interesting plugins. I would consider it esoteric. It's some lab system or something, but they were able to do that because Mirth Connect was open source, because there was a community there, and because it was pluggable. Yeah. It really is a rare piece of software to have all of that together, that you don't have to build the whole thing to customize it. You can work on your own plugins or a couple of small modules and do it well. Yeah. And I know some of the legends at Mirth, the Tycros, Nick Rupley, have built that software to be that flexible for at least a decade.
Yeah.
And that's really opened a lot of doors for where we are today with the open source community.
So guys, if I can, I'm going to pose this question to either one of you to address, and Ron, obviously, or anybody else is certainly welcome to chime in as well. Those of you who know me know me. I can be a user, but I'm not an overly technical user. So I'm going to put my CEO hat on for just a minute. When I think of these open source tools, obviously I am building a business, hopefully a very significant business, based on these things. They become the foundation of what we are building overall. And of course, like I said before, chaos is opportunity, but it's still chaos on some basis. And from a CEO point of view, you have to look at it and go, should I continue Or should I look for an alternative, given that we are basically at a fork in the road? Now, I can go on for a long time about why I made the decision that I made, but that's the right thing for me. But I would like you guys, if you can, to address the idea. Again, Ron made a very important point. What we do in our space with Gemini and moving forward is for the use cases that we have. We literally have clients of ours and prospects of ours that have use cases for the the open source integration engine that really wouldn't be what we do with our commercial product here. There is a need for those. So when you're talking about the governance and the management of OEI, how do you expect to watch for and plan for what's going on in the open source community and really stay abreast of those characteristics and meet those needs?
So I'll let Paul answer more from the business or strategic perspective, but as an engineer, a lot of it comes down to what am I hearing about from the community? What are the questions that are coming up in the chat rooms? What are the questions that are coming up on the issues and discussions on GitHub? Because where a lot of that comes from is we'll get either existing users with very new use cases, or we'll get new users also with new use cases. Somebody shows up with HL7, yeah, we'll help them out, get going. HL7, no problem, send it. But what's being asked about, and it's my approach is much more organic and fairly low level, but I tend to live in the engineering spaces, not necessarily in the strategic spaces, and directly hearing from customers, people writing grants, some of that higher level discussion. Right. So I'm kind of looking at it bottom up, but I don't know if Paul or others would have a more of a top down or more strategic approach to where OIE goes and what we need to hear from the community.
Yeah, Paul, same question to you. If one of the 125 or so or whatever it is people that are on this call are scratching their head going, should I use OIE as a foundation for what I'm building? Should they?
I think it depends on the client. Certainly some will want to stay with NextGen, and that's okay. Some can't afford with NextGen. I can't afford the price point with NextGen. Some may choose to use SaaS, a SaaS solution. I know that there are players on this call that they want to be hands-off and just access the administration, the admin tool in order to do what they need to do and, offload VPN, that sort of thing. For those that don't and sit in the world of, hey, I need a good integration engine that's reliable, I think as you look at moving forward and realizing that, a new fork can, especially a community-driven fork, and you can ChatGPT this or Google this, can take from, 1 to 4 months to solidify things like governance, committee members, how things are going to be done in the particular project. Fortunately, and I think most people on the call know this, we're talking with the Linux Foundation, which and would like to be part of that ultimately, which provides some guidance on governance and also some requirements for us to be in that foundation. That is Linux Foundation Europe. We're certainly interested in not necessarily being a USA-centric effort here, which sometimes we can tend to be. If I were to say, and again, Jon has mentioned this a few times, this is a community-driven project. And I'm speaking on behalf of Duridium, but also sort of with some visibility in what the steering committee is talking about. From a prioritization perspective, that is, of course, governance first, looking for feedback. Actually got some great feedback, and you can see in the pull requests that we're already, making those, taking that advice and changing those. In the spirit of transparency, the steering committee meetings will be available soon. We want to, we're locking that down, so everybody is clear and we're transparent on what's being discussed in those meetings. We've also would like to invite assorted experts who may have interest to participate in those steering committee meetings. Again, in the kind of fundamental philosophy of it being a community-based effort. So the question then is, that was a long way to answer. Well, how do I know whether to go to OIE or not? Again, I think the slide deck that we'll share with this recording or it's just a simple page, will kind of maybe help people understand why we made the decision we made in order to participate in OIE. We think, there's already some great, feature requests, but of course there's feature requests cost money, open sources. And I think a CEO I know said something like, open source is free, but it's not free to develop. So, oh, by the way, that CEO is Jim, for the folks that don't know that. And so the community involvement, whether that be dollar-wise, whether that be personnel-wise, whether that be downloading, installing, QA, all those things are welcome. Obviously, my organization is doing that, but others are welcome to come and comment. As far as Target, where the debranding effort is going on right now, I think I mentioned that already. I suspect another and really probably paramount in most people's minds here is to do appropriate security scanning of the code base in order to make sure people aren't, we're not waiting for, years for a particular library to be patched, and all that's, work, time, and effort. So we'll probably be potentially slower than a vendor stewarded model, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything, I think, in this context, especially given the fact that the current release that is open source is stable, runs, and so on. And the only last thing I'll add is there's sometimes security concerns about running something that has outdated libraries. That's as much and I think people have seen me on Slack sort of tout this. It's if your door is locked and that thing on the table you don't want anybody to act. There's something on the table that may be considered dangerous. Nobody can get in the front door. So I always urge, how your topology matters here from a software deployment perspective. Not that those libraries shouldn't be fixed, but as we move forward, there isn't really a huge rush unless there's some zero-day vulnerability. Let me stop there and see if that makes sense.
And I think in that point, Paul, that was one gap on the Mirth Connect NextGen side. There wasn't a lot of technical expertise about mitigating those risks promoted or talked about, right? And I think that's going to be an important component here for OIE moving forward, is to get some more SME experience in that world. You should be doing X, you should be doing Y, right? And help folks, kind of resolve that anxiety over, a little bit older release or version of a library.
Yeah.
And a lot of it too comes from how receptive is the project in the community to contributions. This is I guess I can talk about myself a little bit. The JSCH updates for SFTP and SSH support in 4.4, 4.5. The JSCH implementation was at least 10 years old when I found another open source fork of JSCH that was 100% compatible and maintained and updated routinely. Sent a patch into NextGen and said, look, you can swap this drawer, you get better logging, more up to date. It's an active project. You're not like it was. The old project's website wasn't even a GeoCities website. It was a developer website, but it was old.
The MySpace website. Yeah.
And like, this is stuff that I do for fun because I'm bored. But then we send that patch up the line and it sits.
Black hole.
Yeah. Right. And now having said that, I'm kind of keeping myself accountable and the other OIE participants and maintainers and contributors accountable that when we get these issues and these PRs, we need to review them. We need to at least acknowledge them fairly quickly and ideally merge and integrate them relatively rapidly.
One of the things in that point, John, is I'd like to see is something like a wish list even too, for feature and function, not just the what you're going after too, but prioritizing or trying to get feedback from the community on, other things too.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I want to hear. That's what I'd be curious to hear about in a chat or whatever is, what was that came up the other day? HL7 over HTTPS just sounded really cool. It sounded really cool. Is that a new thing? Is that active and desired in the community? What about things like OAuth and JWT? Those probably are. I know DICOM has been a sticking issue for years.
Yeah.
Horrible.
That
one is
yeah.
horrible.
What's coming up from the community at large? What are the solution architects, or the sales engineers, or the designers needing from an interface engine that you don't currently have in Mirth derivatives, or that is not available in other places?
Yeah.
And kind of getting to the point about the community that really drove my interest in aligning Zen with OIE was, there's a slippery slope for entities like NextGen, and they did it to, manage their desires over the community desires, whether those were business or just in general, right? How much effort are they going to commit to this and why? And I think something like a wish list or an upvote feature functionality where, the community could say, we're going to pick every quarter the most upvoted feature and add it to the solution in the next quarter even, right? Okay, everyone votes. They say, we want HL7 over HTTPS with JWT, and we want Mirth Connect to support JWT, guys. Can we do that 90 days from now and deliver it 90 days after that?
And I have to ask, and I know it's Ron and Paul and John. I kind of like to get some perspective. The JWT one's a great example, right? And I published a snippet in my repository for how to do a JWT in Java with another library, so you can go get a token, and it was specifically for Epic. And so I always wonder, when we can do so much with Mirth Connect, right, without necessarily having to build native functionality into it, how the community feels about that. I mean, the easy button's always great, but also I'm using this one as an example because I really like it. I would have loved to have that, do JWT thing and tell me how to do JWT thing, but I had to go do my own thing. But once that code is written and can be put into the engine, and I don't mean Java code. I mean channel code here, to be clear. It's done. So that kind of resource, which is code templates, which there's a limited set, in the NextGen repository, and community participation and building of ways to work within the framework that Mirth Connect currently has, is also a valuable asset, so to speak.
I would agree. I would agree. Yeah. I just, the JWT stuff, solidifying that as a core feature, because that's where everything's going, right?
For sure.
My mind, right?
Yeah.
Connectors. What kind of connectors do people want, right? What modifications do you want to connectors, right? Those kinds of things. I mean, the list could go on.
I've got a list there, man.
Yeah, I know. John, you and I've done that over the years, right? I mean,
Yeah. So the SOAP connector. I've never had a lot of great success with the SOAP connector. We usually end up just using HTTP and XML.
Right.
And for the community at large, Fire is going to be a big one. NextGen has their Fire connector for. I tend to not use the Fire connector. I tend to do JSON and HTTP myself, but that's me and my engineers and the people I work with. The OIE needs to be hearing from the community. Yeah, obviously everybody wants to do Fire, but how do you want to do it? Do you want pointy clicky? Do you want graphical? Do you want to just deal with JSON and HTTP? What does the community want for how the community uses the software? And help, the community can help us check some of our biases about how Paul and I use the software and how Carr and Curon use the software versus how we might explain something to Jim,
Right.
Yeah.
And that is another big thing too, right? Relative to that is the idea of just the creative thinking, right? And it kind of goes to where I was, Paul and I use it a certain way. John uses it a certain way. but the rest of the community, they're not all in that space. And I think that was lost at NextGen. So,
Yeah. And I
So,
saw somebody in chat, David S. mentioned ASTM. That's another really good example. If you're doing ASTM, you need ASTM. If you're not doing
what's there is
ASTM,
old.
you know,
What's there is old. It's bad.
yeah. So, and, you know, looking at both public, you know, open and public opportunities as well as private opportunities, you know, obviously I want having everything open and free is super cool, but at some point, you know, does there need to be, we do have that pluggable space where there can be private improvements to the product. You know, are you working with a proprietary protocol? Is there some benefit to, I don't know, there's enough of a development effort and enough of a market that I can't think of a protocol, but something has to be done custom and private, and it's beneficial to everybody to do that. You know, that's just going to have to evolve over the next few weeks and next few months.
So I'm hearing that you guys, again, this is just kind of a roundtable discussion, but the importance of you setting up the forums, however you want to do it, to get this feedback and get the community at large to participate and vote and to help prioritize is a big deal. That a fair statement?
Yeah. And I'm trying to think about, I've got a big audience here. What's my ask for community participation? What I'm trying to, you know, you only get one chance to ask, what helps?
Right.
And a lot of that, I think the big ask is pull requests, either to our governance project or to the engine project. That pull request is the work. Whether it's updating a library, fixing a bug that's always bothered you, improving a README, improving a governance document, you know, that's what's really going to help. But there's a whole spectrum there. If you can, you know, if a company can give us 10 hours a month of a developer's time to hack on something, cool. I'd love to have that.
Right.
If you guys just want to send some of your new users to the chat rooms to ask how to iterate over OBX segments, we're a little busy, but yeah, we'll help. You know, trying to think, what do we need from that community?
Well, you're going to need input in order to stay up with the community. So there's going to be some type of forum that it's too early. I assume it's too early for you to have that all boiled down. But it's, you know, it's got to be there, and you know, the whole purpose of it is to be able to respond to the community of this. These are the things that are on the roadmap, and here's where we're going with it. And of course, to do that, there's a lot of, late night people that are crazy enough to sit around and build this stuff because they like it. Okay, that's great. But again, I'll put my CEO hat on. Some of the stuff you got to be able to pay for it a bit too. And that's an important aspect. I will do a shameless plug here for us, because we are supporting the OEI thing overall. You mentioned security before. Well, Zen is a high trust R2 CSF certified. Our products are certified on that. We do all of that stuff all the time. One of the ways that that can be contributed to is we're going to volunteer our time to do the scans of any release that is there and produce the report back to OEI so that they've got that. And like Paul and John both were saying, that we can manage and mitigate and in many cases eliminate any vulnerabilities that are there. That's one way that Zen can contribute amongst others that we're going to do. And you know, there are 10 other companies that have that are on the OEI website at this point. There are lots of different ways besides just dollar contributing to the cause that can help. So I will encourage the governing body overall to think through what it is that you need in order to be able to sustain in the long run. And sometimes it's dollars, and sometimes it's just things like, sure, we'll do that scan and report it back to you because we need it too. and be glad to do it. So for those of you that are not part of the, I like to sit around on Sunday evenings and actually build this stuff, you got to take care of the people that are taking care of you, and think through and be sure to be open to different ways that you can contribute to the effort here overall. So
yeah, I mean, and I think that's a really important note with the folks that are kind of listening in, that are consumers of NextGen Mirth Connect, right? Ending up with a commercial product and one open source solution has put us in this scenario today, right? Where many people are scrambling here on fire. So there may be some benefits to some of the folks that maybe aren't buying the commercial solution to keep that one foot in the door with the OIE or other open source solutions to keep the forward momentum going on the product. We all need it in some form, right? I think that would be huge, even if it's small stuff. But, under the governance today, can there be donations made to OIE? Paul, John, you guys, how does that work?
So,
Go ahead. Well,
Paul, I'll let you take this one. This is
yeah.
business
So,
stuff.
if you're asking, let me rephrase the question. Can dollar donations be given to OIE? Not
Correct.
yet.
Okay.
That's why we're talking to the Linux Foundation.
Okay.
So that would be the mechanism to do that. And again, this is a conversation about transparency. Linux Foundation does take, I believe it's a 7% management fee, and then everything else is effectively given, for lack of a better word, to the project. And the Linux Foundation effectively lets projects self-govern and manage. They're not in the business of interfering with the project. There are some other entities, and we have a call, I think it's next week, our second call with the Linux Foundation to further clarify what it means to be involved, and how that involvement needs to occur from a structure perspective. So to be continued. So soon, but we can't. We're not yet a 401c. What is 6 or 3?
C3 is charitable. C6 is nonprofit but private. C7 is we keep opening the tabs, looking it up, and then closing them again because
yeah. And the IRS is getting pretty. Before I forget, I just wanted to thank Rhapsody for their ads on LinkedIn, because all they're doing is legitimizing Mirth Connect. I mean, it's a very funny marketing approach. So
and I said to Jim, Rhapsody should all be our targets. All of us should have our sights on Rhapsody, not each other in the space, frankly, right? I think that's important.
Anyway, sorry. I had to say that before I forgot.
That's great. Well, for not having, all the pieces put in place at this point, and already having 11 entities that are formally supporting the organization, you can find them on the OIE. I want to say it correctly for those that don't know it, the openintegrationengine.org website. That's /sponsors. You can see who is doing it at this point, and those are people that have committed to support this organization, obviously not with dollars at this point, but that will be forthcoming with others. And Zen has a number of plans to help in that regard as well. More to come on that as we've got.
Jim, the only thing I'd add is, my ask of my clients would be, instead of paying that 20, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the number, the many thousands of dollars for, NextGen's offering, how about you donate, once we're capable of receiving donations, why don't you donate to the foundation? And the response has been very positive, and I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah. And I am as well. Again, like we talked earlier, Zen doesn't need it directly. We've got the capability, but we certainly do indirectly. And I think everybody who ended up jumping on this call, if you did, and you have an interest in this space, you have an interest in there being a good, solid, open source tool to use, and that may be multiple versions of it. You can make the argument that that's not in the best interest, but like we've talked about here, there may be very different use cases for different ones there. I will say that I think that there is benefit, and it's part of the reason that open source exists, is the ability to take it and expand it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeremy and Brian and Derek are starting to cut up in chat.
It's going pretty good. I'm liking the direction.
Yeah. So,
see, I told you, it's the most fun that you can have and still be talking about healththare data.
$20 a day will get you a PR. If you donate for the whole month, I'll actually shave,
If you get $100 a month minimum, you shave every month, once a month.
That's great.
And looking at some of the other options too, one of the old jokes about Mirth is we keep finding installations. For those of you that have been around a long time, there were the old they called them the toasters, the little orange boxes that would sit under somebody's desk in a practice somewhere, and they were called toasters because they apparently overheated a lot. And Mirth would just show up. And now today, of course, it's virtual machines and Docker images. But every now and then, usually twice a year, we hear about somebody, hey, I just inherited this IT architecture. Yeah. Mirth is running in a virtual machine. It hasn't been rebooted in 5 years. What do I do with it?
Right.
I certainly don't want the various open source builds and forks and home builds and everything to get lost anywhere. But there is very much a place that if you or your organization are using paid licenses, the paid NextGen features in one area, try using one of the open alternatives somewhere else and see how it goes. At this time, we're not guaranteeing compatibility, but this is 3 or 4 weeks old. There's not been a lot of divergence with the channels and the connectors and what is and is not compatible between various releases and publications. So,
exactly.
I encourage people to try it and use it. And again, that's another way to contribute back to the community. If you try OIE and the installation barfs or your security scanner goes nuts, tell us. We're volunteers. I can't guarantee that we can fix it in any certain time frame, but the feedback is valuable. We certainly hope you have a good experience, but tell us, good or bad, what's going on when you try it.
Exactly. All right. One of the things that if you've been to any of these before, we start on time. Even if you show up late, we've already started. We do end on time, which means we've got a little less than 3 minutes left in this hour. I personally don't have any problem staying a little bit later if somebody wants to or that we need to, but we certainly want to cover everything that we expected to in this. So in closing, I'll start with like Jon just said. The OIE organization is about 3 weeks old, and it has come an amazingly long way in a short period of time. They do have a lot of great things going on, and we are very excited. I'll speak specifically for Zen. We're very excited about the possibilities and the opportunity that there is in front of us from that chaos. And we're going to take advantage of that. We're going to be working as a recipient of the output of the OIE and have every intention of migrating to it and migrating our plugins and extensions to support it as well, and more to come on that, on how we can financially support the OIE organization overall. That being said, I know that there are a number of things that are out here. Other questions or other things that Jon or Paul should address here right now in the 1 minute we've got left. And by the way, don't hesitate to throw them in the chat if you don't get a chance to ask them, because something's telling me that we might have these guys back again for a follow-up on this. So I'll shut up for a second. Anybody to open the floor, you're welcome to take yourself off mute, ask a question.
Is there a release available, or is it only available to be built from source?
There are nightlies available, or I guess dailies available. There is not a formal release yet. You can find the dailies, GitHub Actions, and then look at the latest execution from the GitHub Actions, and you'll be able to download the zip file. That is one of our open issues, is to get a formal release. And one of the seemingly small but significant conversations that the leadership has been having is, what do we version that first release as? Is it 4. Is it a 0.5? Is it 4.5.3 to indicate compatibility? So we're working on that official release soon, but there are nightly builds that you can download, grab the zip, grab the tarball, unpack it, launch it, and let us know if you run into issues.
Okay,
and again, we hope you have a good experience, but we're 3 weeks old. There's going to be something that we have forgotten to do, and we rely on the community to tell us if you spot
I don't only add that there's active work on an installer, cross-platform installer.
Yeah.
I've tested it on Mac, actually, and a couple other platforms.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that was a question that I saw out of the corner of my eye just a little while ago. I said we're going to do that a whole lot more. All right. We will end here because we do end on time and respect everybody's time. I hope this has been beneficial. I will tell you that future Interop workshops, we really do tend to focus in on the technical aspects of it. And that's why it's funny that I'm hosting, because I'm really not that technical, and certainly not technical based on the group of folks that we have. But we start the process, and so most of the time we get into the nitty gritty there. So if you are in the technical bent with regard to interoperability, watch for the next ones. We'll post those. We hope that you'll join us, and we'll get into some more real meat and potatoes on future ones. So I hope it's been worthwhile. Thank you for your attendance, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye all.
Bye, folks. Have a good one.